Good afternoon. Thank you for watching our live briefing for Tuesday, September 15th. Today, as you can see, we're broadcasting from the TV studio because the Sarah Bell November Theater is undergoing some repair and some renovation. Today, I have some important COVID information for you. Then Debra Jacobsen has some updates. And then Chaplain Logan Augustine has a prayer for us today. As you probably know, on Friday and then again on Monday of this week, we shared memos with all residents and staff regarding the latest updates on the new confirmed cases of COVID-19 that we've had in the last few days. If you miss seeing those, you can find those memos on our website at www.wcrichmond.org. Now, just a quick update. Yesterday, on Monday, we learned that 2 residents of our Gables assisted living tested positive for COVID-19. On Friday of last week, a certified nursing assistant who worked in Gables and Monticello tested positive for COVID-19. She tested positive after experiencing some symptoms and going out and getting tested. The residents who've now tested positive both lived in that area of assisted living, and so presumptively that's been the exposure. Since Monday, I guess since yesterday, we've tested, we've tested all the residents in Monticello and Gables, and we've tested any of the staff who might have been exposed as well. And then we will continue, and all those results so far have come back negative. We'll continuously be monitoring both staff and residents for symptoms and test anybody who develops any signs or symptoms that would be consistent with COVID. And that's been our process, but now, given this new situation, we're watching those residents very closely in Monticello and Gables. In summary, just so in case you're keeping track, since March, we've had COVID-19 cases in a total of 15 residents and 29 employees. So far, 27 of our employees have recovered and come back to work. 2 are still out in quarantine awaiting those negative results. And the 2 residents who tested positive have been moved to the COVID-19 unit here on campus and are being cared for by assisted living staff in that COVID-19 unit. Moving now to what I talked about last week, which was the phased reopening plan for the Parsons Health Center. Last week I shared that we were thankful for being able to apply into the state VDH's process for phased reopening. We submitted that application to the Virginia Department of Health last week, and yesterday, on Monday, we learned that our application has been approved to enter into phase 1. So what that does is it restarts the clock. We need another couple of weeks with no new cases in Parsons Health Center, and we have some more steps we have to achieve to move to phase 2. Phase 2 then is the final preparation phase. It takes a couple more weeks to get us to phase 3 when we could actually invite visitors. But at this point, entering phase 1, Parsons remains closed to visitation, but we are one step closer and we're headed in the right direction. So that's good news. To enter into phase 2 of the reopening, we must continue to have no new cases for another 14 days, and then the clock resets and we try to get to phase 3. If we do have a new case in Parsons, then we have to go back to the beginning. That's the way the program works. And thankfully, these 2 new cases in assisted living do not impact the situation in Parsons. The 2 are licensed differently and don't really relate to one another. But we are continuing to ask everyone to be very diligent about wearing your masks, washing your hands, keep your distance, especially staff to resident. We need you to continue to keep your distance from each other to just make sure that if anybody's exposed, we don't see any spread. So that's all I have for you today. Debra Jacobsen has some updates. Be back on Thursday, and we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the guidelines here for campus as it relates to visitation and some of the other things. We'll be making some changes in the coming weeks. So we'll talk more about that on Thursday. And so next up is Debra. Excuse me, I got to put my mask on. We're good?
Good afternoon. I have some really good news for you today. The Galleria, our gift shop, is open for business. Not just window shopping any longer. You actually can go in 2 at a time and shop Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from noon till 5 o'clock. In order to keep you safe, we do ask you to limit your time in the store, which is no more than 20 minutes at a time. We ask you to wash your hands before you come in. Ginger has lots of specials going on right now. She has some drawings, and we have a new greeting card display. It's really, yesterday was so well received. Everybody seemed to be so happy to be able to get back in the shop. So please come and join us on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. More good news, the November presidential election, we have completed all the process that we need to complete in order to open up the polls here at Westminster Canterbury on Election Day. In case you did decide to get an absentee ballot, please know that those absentee ballots should start arriving in the mail starting on September the 18th. You can send those back in if you choose to, or hold on to it, do not open it, and bring it to the polls when you decide to vote in November. So we're hoping that that will ease some of your minds, because I know there's something that's definitely on everybody's mind right now. Grocery store runs. What a success. Everybody who has gone to the grocery store Monday through Friday has really enjoyed the opportunity of getting out and shopping again at your favorite grocery stores. With that said, more good news. Starting in October, we're going to add the Kroger Marketplace on Staples Mill Road to our route every Tuesday. We will still be going to the Kroger in Willow Lawn, but we've had a high request for the second possibility of going to a Kroger, which is the one on Staples Mill. So I hope that'll make everybody happy. This is just a reminder to our families that the Friday drop-off continues. This is especially important for those of family members of those who live in the assisted living and the healthcare center. So if you have items you want to drop off with your family members, be sure to do that on Friday. The last thing I have today is to make a special acknowledgement of those residents who may have moved in since the COVID situation started here at Westminster Canterbury and within the country. Can you imagine? It's hard enough to move in. It's hard enough to get acclimated to a new community, but then you put all the restrictions of COVID on top of that. It must be really difficult. So I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome 16 new move-ins that came in during the time that the COVID first started, and this would be between April and August. There were 11 move-ins that are going on right now in September, so 11 new residents are moving in to our community. So join me in welcoming all of them and reaching out to them as you can. That's all for today. We do have several updates on Thursday, so please stay tuned. But in the meantime, I'll turn it over to Logan.
Good afternoon. We're glad you could join us today. A couple programming notes from Pastoral Care today. We've been having our small group discussions on racial justice and understanding, and we have another group which will be starting the week of September 28th through November 6th. The discussions are facilitated by our resident volunteers. Groups meet at different times and different days. Each session lasts about 90 minutes. Articles for discussion are provided before each session. We do have a few openings left, so if you would like to join one of the small groups, please call Vanessa Perry at extension 1502. And that is by Wednesday, September 23rd. So reach out to Vanessa by Wednesday, September 23rd if you would like to join. Please join us this Thursday on TV 970 at 10:30 a.m. for our worship service. Reverend Jenny Tavelda will be preaching. Reverend Dr. Lynn McClintock will assist, and Susie Frazier will play the piano. The following piece that I'm sharing with you today is by theologian Howard Thurman. He was also a pastor and seminary professor. In 1944, Thurman created San Francisco's Church for the Fellowship of All Peoples. It was the first integrated interfaith religious congregation in the United States. Along with Martin Luther King Jr., Thurman developed a philosophy of nonviolence. He taught that in order to make lasting social change, we must all first work on ourselves, our individual spirits. So in this piece today, Thurman reflects on the changing seasons as a metaphor for the hope of resurrection. He writes, "This is the way the rhythm moves. The fall of the year comes, then winter with its trees stripped of leaf and bud, cold winds ruthless in bitterness and sting. One day there is sleet and ice, and the silence of the nighttime, the snow falls soundlessly. All this until at last the cold seems endless, and all there is seems to be shadowy and foreboding. The earth is weary and heavy. Then something stirs, a strange new vitality pulses through the earth. One can feel the pressure of some vast energy pushing, always pushing through dead branches, slumbering roots. Life surges everywhere, within and without. Spring has come. The day usurps the night view. Is there any wonder that deeper than idea and concept is the insistent conviction that the night can never stay, that winter is ever moving towards spring? Thus, when a man sees the lights go out one by one, when he sees the end of his days marked by death, his death, he senses rather than knows that even the night into which he is entering will be followed by day. It remains for religion to give this ancient wisdom phrase and symbol. For millions of men and women in many places, this phrase and this symbol are forever one with Jesus Christ. When the preacher says as a part of the last rites, "I am the resurrection and the life," he is reminding us all of ancient wisdom. Upon the night view of the world, a day view must follow. Let us pray. Loving God, we thank you that you are with us throughout all of the seasons of our lives. As the temperatures cool and as the leaves change colors and fall, we find comfort in knowing that you are changeless. Through pandemic, national turmoil, and unrest, may we turn to you for wisdom and strength. May we rest in your changelessness. As we live into these difficult and uncertain days, which at times never seem to end, help us to know that in you, night is always followed by morning, and that cold and darkness are always followed by warmth and new light. While we yearn for the turning of a new leaf and for all things to be made new, give us patience and grace in this time to see you in the face of everyone we meet. For new life, for grace, and for your eternal changelessness, we give thanks, O God. Amen. Please join us on Thursday at 3 o'clock for our next update.